Hello students, let us discuss today about the bone humerus. First let us talk about the parts of the humerus. This is the humerus. As we comes from the top, this is the head of humerus, and this is the neck of humerus, and below the neck of humerus, this is the surgical neck of humerus. This protruded part is the greater tubercle of humerus. This is the lesser tubercle. We also know this is the shaft. This is the delta tuberosity. For the attachment of deltoid muscle. And this region over here between the two tubercles is known as bicipital groove. And here is the radial groove. And after that, this is the lateral epicondyle. This is the medial. Capitulum, trochlea, this depression is the radial fossa. And this depression is olecranon fossa. And there are two ridges, as this is the lateral epicondyle, so this is the lateral supracondylar ridge. As this is the medial epicondyle, this is the medial supracondylar ridge. Okay guys, this is all about the diagram and the parts of the humerus. Let's continue to important topics of humerus. As we all know that the humerus is the long tubular bone in the human body. Long tubular bone, and it consists of two epiphyses, those are the ends, and one diaphysis, that's the shaft or the body. In the humerus, the superior epiphysis is thickened is thick, and it's also known as the head of humerus. As I told you, this is the surgical neck. So the greater tubercle and the lesser tubercle are situated above the surgical neck, and this is the greater tubercle and this is the lesser tubercle. So the greater tubercle is situated laterally to the lesser tubercle. The body of humerus is cylindrical in shape only in upper half, and it is trihedral in lower half. The body of humerus is cylindrical in upper half and trihedral in the lower half. And as I told you that between the two tubercles there present the intertubercular groove or the bicipital groove. So this bicipital groove contains the tendon of biceps brachii, tendon of long head of biceps brachii. This is the most important question. We all can know that it's the tendon of biceps brachii, but which one? The long head of biceps brachii. So now what is the surgical neck? Surgical neck. This is generally the place between head and body of humerus. And this surgical neck is also the most common site for fractures of humerus. Don't worry, this is the symbol for fracture. So the surgical neck is the most common site for the fractures of humerus. And what happens when the fracture? What get damages? It injures the axillary nerve. I just simply write N. And circumflex humeral artery, mainly the posterior circumflex humeral artery. So which nerve is get damages when the surgical neck of humerus is fractured? The axillary nerve and also the posterior circumflex humeral artery got damages. Mostly posterior circumflex humeral artery. The anterior circumflex humeral artery also gets damaged. So let's have a look again at this diagram. The lateral part of condyle is called as the capitulum, and the medial part of the condyle is called as the trochlea. So trochlea helps for the attachment of the bone ulna to humerus. Trochlea helps for the attachment of bone ulna to humerus. And what does the capitulum do? Capitulum helps for the attachment of radius to humerus. Radius to humerus. Don't be confused. So above the trochlea is the coronoid fossa. This is the and laterally to the coronoid fossa is the radial fossa. So what does the head of the humerus do? Head of humerus. It articulates with the glenoid cavity So what is glenoid cavity? As we learned the scapula, the glenoid cavity is the shallow cavity which is present on the scapula for the attachment of the head of humerus. The head of humerus articulates with the glenoid cavity to form the glenohumeral joint, or basically the shoulder joint. So now, what if the fracture of the greater tubercle? Fracture of greater tubercle. I just simply write GT. Generally, the fractures of the greater tubercle occurs by the trauma or by hypercontraction of muscles. So generally occurs by trauma. And the fracture of lesser tubercle, it occurs by the posterior dislocation of the shoulder joint. Posterior dislocation of shoulder joint. So this greater tubercle helps for some muscles by giving the attachment. It gives attachment for rotator cuffs. Rotator cuff muscles. And lesser tubercle, it also gives the attachment for muscles. Attachment for what? Which muscles? Subscapularis. Just be thorough with these muscles and those attachments. So let's talk about the deltoid tuberosity. So basically, what is a tuberosity? These tuberosity are the roughened parts of the bone which generally helps for the muscle attachments. So now about the deltoid tuberosity, and it's the rough triangular elevation on lateral side of the shaft for the attachment of deltoid muscle. Deltoid tuberosity for the deltoid muscle. So what is a spiral groove? This contains the radial nerve and the brachial artery. Which nerve? Radial nerve and brachial artery. This spiral groove is also the most common site for fracture of humerus. Spiral groove is also the most common site of the fractures of the humerus, and whenever the fracture happens, it damages the radial nerve and the brachial artery. Okay, I will ask you a simple question. What happens when the fracture of the surgical neck of the humerus? Which nerve gets damaged and which artery gets damaged? Don't know? Okay. Whenever there is a fracture of the surgical neck, the axillary nerve gets damaged and the circumflex humeral artery gets damaged. Remember those points. Okay. Then what's a supracondylar fracture? supracondylar fracture. This is the fracture of the distal end of the humerus. Fracture of distal end of humerus. So what does it do? It damages the median nerve. The supracondylar fracture is a fracture of distal end of humerus, and what it damages? The medial nerve. Okay, what happens when the fracture of medial epicondyle? Fracture of medial epicondyle. The fracture of medial epicondyle damages the ulnar nerve. Why it damages the ulnar nerve? This ulnar nerve is compressed in the groove behind the medial epicondyle. So, whenever there is a fracture of medial epicondyle, the ulnar nerve gets damaged. Okay, now let's talk about the trochlea. This trochlea has a spool-shaped articular surface. It has a spool-shaped articular surface and it articulates with the ulna. It articulates with ulna. Now about capitulum. This capitulum is the globular shape and it articulates with the radius. So trochlea articulates with the ulna, capitulum articulates with the radius. So you can have a question. So what's the use of this radial fossa and this olecranon fossa? Let me explain. This olecranon fossa is a posterior depression above the trochlea, right? This backside, this is the trochlea. This is the above the trochlea. The olecranon fossa is present. It holds the olecranon process of ulna on full extension of the forearm. So, and what does this radial fossa do? And this is also the posterior depression above the trochlea, and that holds the coronoid process of the ulna. It holds the coronoid process of ulna. Goes into the coronoid fossa and the radial fossa. It holds till the full flexion of elbow. Okay, let's now talk about the lateral epicondyle. Lateral epicondyle. This lateral epicondyle provides the origin of supinator and extensor muscles. Provides origin for supinator and extensor muscles. And what does the medial epicondyle do? This medial epicondyle also helps for the attachment for ulnar collateral ligament, commonly called as UCL, and pronator teres, and common flexor muscles. The lateral epicondyle provides the origin for the supinator and extensor muscles, And what does the medial epicondyle do? It provides the origination for ulnar collateral ligament, pronator teres, and common flexure muscles. This is the ligament and these two are the muscles. Okay, now let's talk about the muscle attachments in detail. Muscle attachments. So, deltoid tubercle. These are the parts. I will write the parts here. And muscles. Let's come to the first part, the deltoid tubercle. It gives attachment for the deltoid muscle. Next comes the lesser tubercle. It gives attachment for the what? Which muscle? And the greater tubercle. Greater tubercle. It gives attachment for the three muscles. What are those? Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and teres minor. Next comes the bicipital groove or intertubercular sulcus. What attaches to the bicipital groove? Long head of BB, biceps brachii. What comes the next? The medial epicondyle gives attachments for the common flexor origin. And next comes the lateral epicondyle, gives attachments for the common extensor origin. Next comes the floor of bicipital groove. Floor of bicipital groove. Generally, the bicipital groove consists of three parts. Two lips, those are the medial and lateral lips, are also called as borders, and one floor. So the floor of bicipital grooves gives the attachment for latissimus dorsi. And now comes for the lateral lip of bicipital groove, gives attachment for the muscle pectoralis major. And what does the medial lip do? Gives attachment for the teres major. So deltoid muscle, deltoid tubercle, and the lesser tubercle gives for the subscapularis, greater tubercle gives for the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor. Remember these three, those were very important. And bicipital grooves for the long head of biceps. Remember this long head of biceps. And next, the medial epicondyle gives for the common flexor origin. Lateral epicondyle is the common extensor origin. And the floor of bicipital grooves, latissimus dorsi, lateral lip, pectoralis major, medial lip, teres minor, teres major. So this is up to all this topic, and the next topic is bone radius. Thank you. If you understand anything in today's topic, just hit the like button and share with your friends also, so that they can also learn, they can also study easily. And finally, subscribe to my channel. Thank you.